Alright, so like as a kid I watched a lot of cartoons, and I'm sure any child can relate that when they were little they wanted to be some type of like superhero, whether it was like Superman or Spider-Man. Well, I want to be Batman, and I still do. Batman was everything when I was little. I watched it all the time, and I always wanted to dress up and be just like him. So today I'm going to inform you guys who created Batman, who Batman actually is, and how he's evolved through film. Batman was created actually in the 1930s, around the Great Depression. During the 1930s was a really rough time, obviously, and a lot of people were looking for means of like heroics because everybody was so down in the dumps from what happened with the economics and stuff like that. And Aaron Clancy stated that the 1930s, the American dream had become a nightmare, and comic books and superheroes were like that scapegoat. People turned to superheroes and comics for a way to escape that economic crisis. Bob Kane and Bill Finger actually started Batman. It was right after Superman, and they wanted something different than Superman, something that more related to people, because Superman had superpowers. Batman's different. Batman was like a normal guy, but he fought crime. And so they came up with this thing, and I have a slide. How do I turn it on? Power?
No. Scroll over to the computer one and push the enter button.
Alright. Basically that's Bob Kane, and that's Batman. And this is actually the first like illustration of Batman. Him and Bill went back and forth about how to create Batman and how to create this guy that they were trying to get. Bob wanted to, he actually stated that he wanted to make a superhero vigilante, and Bill actually threw in his input and wanted to make him more like a detective cop kind of guy. And at first he was all red and stuff, and then they changed him to like a black cape and stuff like that. So now that you know where he started from, let's talk about who Batman actually is. So Batman is his superhero name, but his name is Bruce Wayne, and he's a millionaire, and he lives in Gotham City, and he owns Bruce Industries. The way he became a superhero is after he was watching a movie with his family. When he was really little, he saw his family get brutally murdered, and so that gave him like the drive to fight crime and stuff like that. And the reason he can fight crime and all that stuff is because he has a lot of money, and so he uses that money to buy like high-tech stuff like supercars and gadgets, and that's why he's awesome. So let's talk about, now that you guys know a little bit of the character, how do you go over it?
You have to use the cursor on the computer.
Alright, the evolution of film Batman. So first it started off as comics, and then it went to like a TV show. These are really early things of Batman. And Batman in the early forms was, I used to watch him with my dad when I was little. He's really a lot different than he is now. He was actually like, he had like a lot of comical things and stuff like that. It was a lot different. And as you can see, the costumes changed dramatically. Early it was a lot of bright colors because that's when color TV first came out. It was a lot of colors and like boom pow type stuff like that, and all the crazy characters. And as time evolved, like I think in the 90s or 89 or something, they came out with the new Batman, and the suit began to change more towards Bob Kane's kind of thing, and it made it more dark and more vigilante-like. So these are some of the movies. The evolution starts with the characters, the villains. The villains started, it used to be pretty much all about the villains. The villains were like far-fetched and real out of control, and Batman had all these sidekicks, you know, Robin Hood, Batgirl, stuff like that. And it worked for a little bit, but that wasn't really what they were trying to capture in the comic books. And then I think today, with the newer movies, they really went back to that, and it's really gone back to what Bob Kane really tried to start. And he started with a dark vigilante that was a human and did fight crime without these, they were actually real problems. They weren't like far-fetched, crazy characters. And a lot of people like that. Critics stated that the new ones actually focus more on the origin of the hero and not so much like the villain aspects of it and stuff like that. So a lot of people enjoyed the new ones and felt that it was closer to the actual character they first created. I talked about how Batman came about, who created him. I talked about who Batman actually was. And I talked about how Batman, the character, has evolved through cinema. And hopefully next time when you guys are watching Batman, you guys will be more informed of who Batman is and the aspects behind Bruce Wayne.
Catherine, what'd you think? What?
Wait, which Catherine?
It's Catherine Casar.
Okay.
So I really liked the topic because I love Batman too. So I was really interested, but also the way he presented it, it kind of caught everybody's attention, kind of made everybody laugh on certain points. So that was really good because you could tell that the audience was captivated. Really good volume. It's really cool how he showed like how in the 1930s, like how people escaped from their economic crisis and went into the whole superhero things. The only really thing that I think he needs to work on is maybe know how to work the projector at first and not look at the side so much, but he did really good.
All right. Well, there are a lot of things that I liked in the presentation. There are a few things that I think are problematic. I'd agree. This is a subject a lot of people are going to enjoy because it's a fun topic. There are lots of fans of Batman. People will be familiar with the recent movies. And you've got good enthusiasm in your voice when you're telling the story at the beginning. We know what your topic's going to be. Your thesis is not exactly clear. You've got a good preview of what the contents of the speech are going to be, but what are all these things ultimately going to talk about? Are they going to be a discussion of the evolution of the character of Batman? Are you contrasting the Batman from the comic books to the Batman of the movies? Or is your discussion going to focus on how Batman in the movies is returning to his comic roots? I don't really know what the direction's going, except that I know what the points are that you're going to talk about, and hopefully we could put that together and figure it out. So that could be sharper. I thought that you had some good historical information at the start of the speech, but there's not really much citation after you talk about Bob Kane and the other writer who invented the character. We don't get any quotes or statistics or even a story from the time that would talk about why they saw it that way. You've got a reference to Bob Kane's book right there in your first slide, and I was looking for a quote from him that talked about, here's what we wanted him to be, here's why I fought with Bill over how he was going to be visualized, and here's what I hated about the movies of the 40s and 50s or the TV show, or here's what I love about... I mean, we don't get any quoted material there, any illustrations or examples, just your kind of assessment of it. And I got to be honest with you, I could have given this speech without doing any research at all. Everything that you said is stuff that I've heard and have known, and I'm not a huge comic book fan, so it's one of those things where you've given us very basic stuff and you need to go a little bit deeper on it. I thought you did a nice job presenting it, and I thought the visuals that you picked were pretty good. I like the image that you have, the evolution of the character as it's visualized in the movies and on television. I thought that was fine. I think you could have done a little bit more to make the talk about the refocus of on the hero as opposed to the villains in the new set of movies. The posters that you have here for the two new movies clearly make the hero the focus in these particular posters, but you know what? I saw posters for Dark Knight that featured the Joker character all over the place, so why is this, a good distinct way of looking at that? You need to tell us a little bit more about that. And believe it or not, there are scholars who actually write about comic books and this kind of thing, and I think there's material that you needed to get into the speech there. There was one place where you were talking about in the historical point that it was, Batman became a scapegoat, and I think you really meant an escape valve, and the two things, because the scapegoat, that means we're blaming him for the depression, and I don't think anybody's doing that. So you got to be a little careful about those things. And one more time, lose the hat.